What's up, everyone? This is Mark Hill from My Card Post. You're listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show. There is no off-season.
This is Teapot from Sports Card Investor, and I'm loving the content here on Sports Card Strategy Show and the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network. Be sure to subscribe for year-round advice on keeping your portfolio up to date because there is no off-season.
What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. This is the Sports Card Strategy Show. Don't forget to get a free 30-day trial at NoOffSeason.com today to help you make money flipping sports cards, build your sports card investment portfolio, get unlimited advice from our experts, and take sports card school to navigate the hobby. That's NoOffSeason.com. Get your free 30-day trial today. All the data we use on the Sports Card Strategy Show is from MarketMoversApp.com. Use code NOOFFSEASON at MarketMoversApp.com to get 20% off for life after a free 14-day trial. All right, let's get to the Sports Card Strategy. Yo, I'm Paul Hickey. He is Lefty McKee. This is going to be easily one of the best episodes we've ever done here on the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network. It's the Sports Card Strategy Show. Lefty is going crazy, and I'm going to have to get him focused on today's app.
We ain't no Argentina. We've got John McGinn, and Robo on the wing. No Scotland, no party. Steve Clark's Tottenham.
For the people who have no idea what's going on right now, Lefty, tell them why you're pumped.
It's the Euros. It is the Euros, ladies and gentlemen. Such a fun tournament to watch. They love soccer. I love soccer. Albania with the 2-2 tie today. What an electric day. Potentially almost beating Croatia. We've got Germany 2-0 today. Oh, Scotland plays at 3. Oh, dude, it is a good time to be a soccer fan or football. A football fan. Gotta love it, man. It's such a fun summer, man. And the Copa starts like tomorrow. Man, it's such a good time to watch soccer.
Let's go. Lefty bringing the energy. I love it. I know the audience loves it. Welcome, NoOffSeason.com fam. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the following topics, probably and more, acknowledging the passing away of the great Willie Mays, a concept that Lefty and I have talked a lot about, especially recently, why you should try not to leave a footprint. And we'll explain what we mean by that. Don't be a comp. We're going to talk about some of Lefty's guys as it relates to the formula. One surprise player and another one that we know Lefty loves because he talks about him all the time. Just talked with Chase Krim on Lefty Cards about it on Monday, SGA. Hey-o. And then I got some questions for Lefty related to not only soccer, which is one of his top sports, but also baseball, which is the other one of his top sports. And let's not forget women's basketball. Lefty is a huge women's basketball guy. So I'm excited to get into sports card related topics for all of these. And Lefty's taken the flags off, probably because it's hot in Kentucky.
Yeah, it is a little hot.
But I love the energy. All right, so let's talk about our live chat real quick. We're going to give everybody some love that joins us in the live chat here at youtube.com/Paul Hickey throughout the show. So definitely get involved. I see Ryan Painter and Alan Ma already in the live chat. Welcome. And feel free to drop L's, drop dubs, drop comments, whatever you like. We'll shout you out. And if you're not watching live, which most of you probably aren't, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. We'll get right back to you. And get involved, too, if you want, on our Discord at sportscardstrategy.com. There's always a quick link invite into that Discord. And speaking of getting involved, Lefty, I think it's time. It's a timely question of the day. So the call to action on our question of the day is always to either go to Sports Card Strategy on Instagram and comment on the pinned post, or just drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. And we talked about the great Willie Mays passed away this week at the age of 93. We also had Jerry West recently pass away, the logo for the NBA. My question of the day to the audience is, do you list sports cards upon a player's death? And Lefty, I want people to comment at youtube.com/Paul Hickey about this, or on our pinned post on Instagram by following Sports Card Strategy. And like it or not, my man, I did a little bit of research. I didn't dig too deep. It's pretty easy to do this research. I searched Willie Mays card on eBay, and I sorted by new listings only. And there's more than 37,000 new listings for Willie Mays card. And so there's obviously all kinds of cards listed. You've got everything, 1966 Topps Baseball, SGC 4, 1959 Willie Mays, PSA 1.5. But you got some big Willie Mays cards here being listed, and they're new listings. Somebody just listed 1952 Willie Mays Burke Ross, PSA 4, buy it now, $2,800. Jerry West, real quick, recently passed, and he had one of his top card sales this past week. So if you look at his 1961 Fleer base PSA 6, it sold yesterday for $3,300. And it was not selling, it was selling for $2,000 before he passed. So death definitely does bump up a legend's card prices, especially when they're in the ilk of Jerry West or Willie Mays. But let's talk about it, man. Lefty, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think this is a topic, surprisingly, my heart rate is back down, by the way, so we can talk about sports cards. The Euros are not on my secondary screen for what it's worth. I'm locked into sports cards, but first off, I would like to say rest in peace, Willie. An absolute unit of a player. It was a guy that's easy to look up to, a role model in the sport. And so rest in peace, and shout out to the Mays family. And thank you for being a part of baseball for so long. But in terms of a death being a sell marker, I used to have a very extreme take on this. I used to be like, man, I just don't believe I could ever really do that, because ethically I just was unsure of what was going to happen, or not what was going to happen, but like how I felt about it. The longer I've gone into this market, I'm realizing it's the last moment that you can like almost honor the guy. I know that's a weird way to look at it, but I think it obviously is one of the last sale markers, or the final sale marker, if you will. And I think if you have, I have some Willie Mays cards. I'm not going to part with them because I got them from my great grandfather. So they were actually his. So I'm not going to part with them right now. But I think it's easy for me to understand the emotion behind wanting to buy more Willie Mays cards today. Because I wanted to, I'm gonna want to go out and look at all the listings, and there's a couple of Willie Mays cards that I still would like to have, and they're available now for the first time in a long time. So if you are, a Willie Mays collector, today might be the best time for you to get a card that you have had trouble looking for or had trouble finding. So I can see why sales would be up. I think the part now ethically that I don't want to profit on, I'm okay profiting or listing a card or whatever on a death as a final sale marker. I think the weirder part now would be searching for goats about to die, going out and buying a card now, hoping in the next, being oh yeah, in the next 3 months, he's definitely going to pass,
right.
We're buying cards right now, knowing that the NFL season is in a couple of months. I don't want to ethically go out and buy a card right now that I know a guy is at the end of his life. That feels a little weird to profit on. But I think if you're going to list your cards now and you like Willie Mays, but you have a plethora of him, reload. I think Willie would be honored by that. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's a great point. What you said about prospecting on someone's death, that's certainly different, I think, in my opinion, that's different than listing cards upon someone's death. we know a lot of great people in the hobby that are on opposite sides of this issue, right? Like a lot of great people say, hey, look, death is a selling marker. Like I'm going to sell my cards to make a profit when somebody dies, when they're in the news. When somebody dies, they're in the news, and when they're in the news, their card prices go up. I mean, that's been a proven fact. For those of you new to the Sports Card Strategy Show, this is not the first time we've talked about this, and totally understand. The reason I made the question say, do you list cards upon a player's death instead of should you list cards upon a player's death is because I just simply want to know from everybody, what do you do? Or what do you think you would do if you were in this situation? And I don't want people necessarily jumping all over each other, getting mad at people's takes. I could see that definitely happening. But on the Sports Card Strategy Show, we try to avoid drama, avoid controversy. But this is certainly something that I think is relevant to talk about because, Willie Mays is like, I would say almost for sure a top 5 baseball player of all time. I mean, you could say arguably, but I think Willie Mays, I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's going to argue with you that he's not a top 5 of all time.
Yeah.
And so they're just, it's very few and far between where you have somebody of his accomplishments to a game like baseball pass away. So first and foremost, acknowledging his great life, but also it is a very real topic in the hobby. And I want everybody to kind of accept each other. One post I saw by a great friend of the show, Andy Broom, who's the VP of CGC Cards on X. I thought he made a great post. And this is why I think it's a great post, because he's tying together the hobby with the relevant news of Willie's passing. And he's in his post, he's honoring Willie Mays, but he's basically doing it from a hobby perspective, educating people about fake cards. So as we know, like there's a lot of fake Michael Jordan cards out there. When you're a GOAT, people fake your cards, right? They make counterfeit copies of your cards. So he's saying, because he's an expert in grading cards. And so I think this is on brand for him. It's a great post for the hobby to educate. And it also honors Willie Mays. So fake of the day in honor of Willie Mays, today's counterfeit card is a 59 tops of the Say Hey Kid. Not a terrible fake at first glance, but under the loop, we see that it is a copy of a copy. So great. I think that's a great post. At Card Grader on X. He's at Card Grader on Instagram as well. So props to Andy Broom, I think, for taking something like somebody passing away and turning it into a post that's actually educational to the hobby. So speaking of CGC Cards, are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Lefty, go to cgccards.com to start grading today. And I think you were going to say, you're going to add something about Andy's post. What were you going to say, man?
Well, the last thing I'll add about Willie Mays specifically is he was one of 3 that I know of that in a quick. The Negro Leagues in general are tough to keep track of because of the record. The record keeping was not really kept in good standard, or at least preserved well. But they're up until yesterday, there were 3 active living Negro League players still alive, and now there's 2. And so I people don't often think about that part of Willie Mays' career, and so he was a living legend to a lot of different degrees. And I think that's another thing worth mentioning is he got his start in the Negro Leagues and then came over to the MLB, which is people just don't realize that. So that's just another part of his lore that is really unique and specific to Willie Mays and why people love him so much. And so shout out Willie. If you have any Willie cards, get them graded in CGC. How about that?
There you go. Love it. All right. Good stuff. We say hello to Boudini's Cards and Comics, Eric Stefano, Rocky Empire Sports Cards, in the live chat. What's up, everybody? All right, so moving on here on the Sports Card Strategy Show, one thing we do every Wednesday is we talk about some of the top already graded cards to buy and flip. And I thought it would be good, since Lefty McKee is joining me, to talk about one of his favorite players, because as basketball season is now officially over, it's typically a good time to look into who to buy from a basketball perspective, with upcoming selling markers potentially of the beginning of the season in October, potentially the All-Star break, maybe even the in-season tournament. Who knows? But the way that I go through my process, we've talked about this before, is to look at the top young players in the league, who's in the top, say, 5 to 10 players in the league, and then which of those players are clearly the number one options on their team. And oh, by the way, is their team any good? And Lefty, I think you'd be the first to agree with me that the Oklahoma City Thunder is a really freaking good team.
Dude,
so
yeah.
We ran your guy SGA through the formula in honor of you. You and Krim talked about SGA on Lefty cards on Monday. And we ran some SGA cards through the formula. And I think it's time to take a look at some already graded SGA cards that people can buy for a target cost and flip later on. So I'm interested to get your take on these and have a little bit of discussion also along the way about how the formula is kind of educating us as a unit about, some of the things that we used to believe you could or couldn't do to make money. I think the formula is kind of enlightening me. So I'll talk about that in a second. But the first card is this his Prism Silver, his 2018 Prism Silver. These are obviously we're going to talk about only SGA rookies here. So he's in a Clippers uniform. The Prism Silver PSA 10, you and Krim talked about this kind of being at a good price point right now. $485 is a recent comp here in the last few days. The formula tells us that it should sell in February historically for around $615 conservatively. When you take out the fees, though, it leaves you with only a 1% profit margin. So here we are with what we've always historically believed to be the right card, right? Yeah. And I think it is the right card. But what the formula is telling us is if you buy it now, even at the target cost, there's only a 1% profit margin on this. Any thoughts before we move on this card, or just kind of where we're going in particular, Lefty?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the formula bake in eBay pricing for this? Yeah, I think that this would be a card that I would specifically want to sell at a show. Like, I wouldn't want to, like, if I'm going to buy this card right now, I would want to move it at a show so I didn't take the large amount of taxes or percentage off on this. And I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But a 1% gain on this card doesn't feel worth it to me if you're just strictly selling it on eBay. Totally.
And I think that's why it's like enlightening to look at the formula-based rankings, because, again, I think we would have all pre-formula said, oh, you got to go get the Prism Silver PSA 10.
Right.
Like, that's the card. And it probably still is the card, but it's just not the card, to your point, if you're going to sell it on eBay. Yeah. Even if you're getting it at $485 after fees on eBay, you're really only making 1%. And is it worth holding a card that's going to cost you almost $500, eating up that in your bankroll for that long? We're saying February as a sell marker here. Yeah. To make 1%. To your point, selling it at a show is a great call, because you could conceivably make almost 20% more than that 1% if you were to sell it at a show for $615 after buying it for $485. Now, at a show, maybe you only sell it for $585 or something like that, but you still make more than 1%. So yeah, great point there. One interesting thing about all of his Prism cards, because we're going to look at his Prism base next, his Prism base, not the silver. But one interesting thing about his Prism cards that I didn't even realize, it's funny, like how optical illusions or like your mind kind of plays tricks on you sometimes. Like, I think I looked at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 2018 Prism cards I mean, for at least 6
Yeah.
to 8 months before I realized they don't have an RC shield on them.
Yep.
And that was a mistake by Panini. So, do I like that card less? And that could be another question of the day. Drop a comment below on the video here. If you're listening on the podcast apps, we'd love it if you head on over to youtube.com/Paul Hickey, drop a comment. I want to know, like, does that deter you from the card that it doesn't have an RC shield? Lefty, how do you feel about that?
It doesn't deter me at this point. I think at one point in Shea's career, it would have it would have deterred me. But there are some cards that are so big in the media or like big in pop culture in our hobby, it's commonplace for that to be the card that people think about. And so, like you said, we become I was talking about this term yesterday, nose blind. I don't know if you are familiar with that term, but I'm sure Max is nose blind because I'm sure his room smells like a teenage boy. And I'm sure when you walk in there, you're like, dude, it smells like freaking butt in here. And he's like, I don't smell it. Like you sit in the smell long enough. And
it's like when I fart in my car. Like I'm good with it.
Yeah. Well, okay. That is a different discussion. But like when a smell becomes consistent enough that you don't realize you smell it anymore, is kind of what nose blind is. And I think sometimes we become nose blind, quote unquote, to some things that we're regularly used to seeing. And we are regularly used to seeing this as Shea's rookie card. Yep. Whether it has the rookie shield on it or not, just like what you just said, you were talking about it. You were looking at it for 6 months and you're nose blind to it. So I think the culture has determined this is his card. Now, we're going to talk about another rookie parallel that I actually really, really like too at a much cheaper price point that does have a rookie designation on it. But still, I don't think that affects this card really in the long term. Like I think maybe in 100 years, people will be like, "Is this his rookie card?" Or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But everybody right now is like, yeah, it's that Prism Silver 2018. 184. That's the car you really, that's the car we think of as his rookie card. So, but I don't know if where you wanted to go from here, but if you want me to transition to the other rookie card that's on this list, you can make the transition.
We're gonna get there, and I think I like the foreshadowing by you because it's again kind of goes with my overall point of like, wow, that's the card. I think that's the one you're talking about. But just real quick, the base Prism PSA 10, $83 buy-in point, $110 upside, selling marker in October for this one, 6% profit. So you can actually make more on the base PSA 10 quicker than you can on the silver. You need $400 less. Okay. So that's definitely, could be a bigger win.
I mean, you could buy 5 of these.
That's right. Yeah. You could.
And make 30%.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that the right math?
You'd still make the same 6%, but you could buy 5 of them for the price of 1 silver. And then it would compound though, right? So it would compound to the point where you would make 25% more than you would have made if you would have bought one of the silver, but that 25% more would be different than simply making the 6%. But you're right. It's like, it's significantly more money, more net profit.
And the pop count is, I'm assumingly higher as well.
The pop count is significantly higher, so it's more achievable. And yeah, absolutely. So again, it's like we're the SGA discussion, I think, is proving the point that the formula has opened our eyes to, oh, wow, like not only is there more than one right card, but the one that we think is the right card might not be the best card to make money on in the short term or even at a selling marker. So just real quick, the red, white, and blue Prism PSA 10, which is a card that I made a little bit of money on, bought one at the National and then sold it in October last year in 2023. You can make 12% on that one. It sells for less than half of the Prism Silver, and so therefore doesn't need as much upside. But selling marker of February, you'd make 12% just buying it already graded. Selling it for around 280, you'd make 12%. I'm gonna let you I think transition in a second to the one that you were talking about. But the next best one would be, I think, the one that I would want. And that would be his 2018 Optic, because I like the rated rookie logo, and I'm more partial to Optic than I am to the brand that I think you were going to go to here in a minute, which you would make 1% more, right? So on the one that you're going to talk about in a second, but the Optic base is only $49 buy-in point. It should sell for $75 in October. And so I like it because I just like the card better. I like the rated rookie logo. And I don't have to hold it past October, which we know I'm a fan of, kind of getting in and getting out quicker. So 22% margin too, like 22% margin after fees. So I'd be stoked about the 2018 Optic 162 PSA 10. But yeah, you're foreshadowing earlier. I think I'll let you talk about the one that you like most here, which is the number one way to make money from a ROI standpoint on SGA cards already graded right now per the formula. So take it away, man.
Yeah, actually, my favorite was going to be that Optic as well, but I can talk about this Select Concourse as well. The Select Concourse has that simple rookie shield right in the bottom center of the card. You know, like it's him clearly it's clearly SGA. You know, he looks just like SGA, other than maybe he's got the fade, other than the braids he currently has, but he's got the RC logo. I am historically not a fan of Select cards. I just don't like the way they look. Krim commonly talks about that's the hottest take that I have, is that I'm not high on any Select card, whether that's soccer, football, basketball, whatever. I'm just not a fan of the way that it looks. But it is the one that you can make the most profit margin on. Even a 0.1 or a 0.01 difference sometimes is a big marker, depending on how many you have of them. So if you're looking to make the highest return on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which is a guy that all of us would say is going to be the guy, my preferred selling marker is probably going to be the in-season tournament, when I think the Thunder will show up for the first time. And I don't want to do the same thing that I did last year, where I held Halliburton too long and I could have sold him at the in-season tournament and gotten a bag and a half for him when I ended up selling him at the Dallas show for less than I could have gotten at the in-season tournament. So I'm definitely going to be watching Shai very closely. He's a guy, well, not only, yes, am I going to be watching him very closely because I am a Thunder fan, I'll be watching his prices closely, because this is a guy that I would like to get in alongside Giannis this offseason, where I feel like it's a can't miss player development of both of those guys. You know, it's impossible unless there's season-ending injuries, which we never want that to happen for any guys. And so we don't invest expecting those kind of injuries. But when you can invest expecting greatness out of both of these players, who I would argue are both two of the top 4 players in the NBA.
We're totally in agreement on that. Giannis and SGA, two guys that I want you all out there in the audience to find the right card for them. And now is a good time. And that's why I love our formula, because the formula, I think, does two things. First of all, it kind of opens up our eyes to the fact that there are more than one card per player that can be the right card. And then it's going to prioritize those cards for the player based on the ROI, and it's going to help you buy in at the right price point as well. So search for SGA, search for Giannis. We talked about Giannis last week along with Steph Curry. So buying basketball using our formula-based rankings, there's a lot of great opportunities there right now. Obviously, the downside to basketball is that you do have to wait a little longer before selling it if it's already graded, whereas like football is right around the corner. Speaking of football, surprise for Lefty. I had to throw this into the show because Lefty has a favorite quarterback in the NFL. It's his guy. And as I was updating our formula-based rankings at nooffseason.com yesterday, as I do every day, it just so happened that today's show was coming up, and I was working on the show notes for today's show as well. And I said, this card rather, is now the number one formula-based card in the rankings for the already graded tab. And I said, I got to throw this in for Lefty because it's Minshew Mania, baby.
Let's go.
Gardner Minshew 2019 Prism Base 322 PSA 10. Get this, last comp $10 for the base PSA 10 of Gardner Minshew, the potential starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think, hot take, he's got way better chance than who they're saying is the incumbent starter right now, Aiden O'Connell, going into his second year. I think it's Minshew Mania in Vegas this year. And Lefty, I think you should go buy this card, because if you do, you can make 180% ROI from the target cost of $10. This only needs to sell in September for $35, and you've made 180% ROI on this one card after fees.
Let me tell you this. It will sell for higher than $35 because Minshew is going to be the starter for the Raiders, and I've already bought 2 of them in the past 15 minutes. I bought one, and I overpaid for my first one on, because I'm like, I am all in on this. I believe it'll sell for higher than $35. But the second one I got for a best offer as well. So there's people willing to move this card right now. I've bought 2 of them in the past 15 minutes. I am all in on Gardner Minshew. I have been. Oh, I think he's one of those cult favorite players that's going to be an easy sell as soon as he does well. I could put this up on eBay or any Facebook page or any table, and people will buy it because people love Gardner Minshew. It's an easy sell. And, if I lose, 15 to 18 bucks on these cards or whatever, like, I'm all in. So Minshew Mania, I'm all in.
This card's a pop just under 2,000. So you could definitely find it. And I love that you just bought 2 of them. So great work. I think you're right. I mean, the formula is super conservative. So the $35 sell exit point that still makes you the 180% ROI is conservative. And I mean, this could be a $75 card. This could be $100 card. This could be over $100 card.
If this card sells for 100% more than I bought it for, like, we got to do something crazy. I mean, if this card sells for $150, this would be wild.
I've never been a Gardner Minshew guy, and I think it's always been because of, how when you're like you're a fantasy football owner, or maybe you own a sports card of somebody, and then Gardner Minshew is like the annoying backup of the guy that you're rooting for.
Yep.
I think that's the only reason why I've never liked Gardner Minshew. Now that he's in Las Vegas and I have no affiliation with Aiden O'Connell, I'm like, hey, Minshew Mania.
You're in, dude.
Like, he doesn't annoy me anymore.
How does this guy annoy you, man? He's so crazy.
I don't know. Like, dude, you know how sports can be sometimes. Sometimes you just see a person and maybe you catch a snippet of something, or maybe, I don't like, I just think, I think for me, it's been that he's annoyed me because I've been more of a fan of the guy that he's been the backup for. And then there's always like this sentiment of like, put in Minshew. Minshew's better than this guy. And I'm like, no, he's not, even though he probably is. And now that he's like not in that situation, I'm like, I don't really feel one way or another about this guy. Because I'm a glass half full person as it relates to like all athletes. Like, I generally want all athletes to do well. And then you've got Aaron Rodgers, who I don't want to do well. You knew I was going there.
I did. I was going to go there if you didn't, because I was going to say that we did bring him up on the Lefty Card Show this week as one of our 3-month investment profiles. So
good stuff.
But I do think that Minshew has the ability to be Baker Mayfield on the Bucs.
Sure.
Like, he's finally going to get an opportunity to win the starting position and be the guy in Las Vegas. And Vegas has the fan base to be full on Minshew mania. They have the fan base. They have been struggling for anyone out there in the desert, dude. And Jimmy Garoppolo didn't work out. You know, they had all these other issues with whoever else. You know, they moved on from the guy they probably should have kept. So it's like, it's crazy. Minshew mania is going to be insane. If he wins that first game, this card is going to go bananas. And I think we will see, similar to how Baker's market, really came out of nowhere last year. I think we'll compare that to Gardner Minshew. And I don't think it's inappropriate to compare these two quarterbacks. Of course, Baker had the number 1 draft pick, behind him. So like, Minshew doesn't have that on him, but Minshew does have some serious lore. He once broke his hand on purpose to try to get a medical red shirt. But he got super drunk and tried to break his hand to get a medical red shirt at, I believe, App State. And somebody found out about it, and he did not get the medical red shirt because they found out that he broke his hand on purpose. So he just got some incredible lore. This guy has stories for days.
He lived in a camper or an RV or something like that.
Like the guy was in a camper in the Hard Knocks episode or something like that. So this guy's got some incredible lore. I love to be on Team Minshew, and I have 2 of his cards now.
I don't want to hate players, so I want to root for Gardner Minshew. So now that you've bought into this card, I have more reason to root for Gardner Minshew, and we're going to keep it moving. You got to go get one. You got to go get one. I might. I mean, you can out in the audience right now. I may. I'm trying to leave some for the audience, right? You know, bringing up all these great opportunities at nooffseason.com. I find myself restraining myself often, thinking, God, I got to leave some of these opportunities out there for the nooffseason.com fam. But no, I definitely, there's more than enough out there, right? Because there's 2,000 of these. So I think we can all go get a couple. And we say hello to Baseball Card Curmudgeon. We say hello to, get ready for this name, Oh My Shoes.
Welcome.
Oh My Shoes apparently is back as part of the nooffseason.com fam. I think he took a hiatus. You think he took like a year hiatus. Good to have you back, Shoes. Koa Carrero is in the house. Good to see Koa. And
Koa. Oh man, what a guy.
Absolutely. Okay, so Lefty, we're gonna switch topics here.
Cool.
To the title of today's show, why you should try not to leave a footprint. Don't be a comp. Now, we need to unpack this a little bit further because obviously we're going to be comps. Like we're buying on eBay a lot. We're going to leave a footprint. We're going to be comps. And that's what I mean by that. Like, so your sports card footprint is when you buy a card on eBay and that is your comp, you have left a footprint. And why that's significant is because, like, for example, let's just use this Gardner Minshew card that Lefty just bought. How much
became a comp?
How much did you buy the most recent of the 2 that you just bought? What was the total price? Don't include the shipping or anything like that. Just the price of the card.
$24.38.
$24.38. Okay, so now this is, we're just going to use this as a.
That's the order total actually. So that includes.
Okay. So you were closer to the target cost of 10 or 15.
$18.
Okay, so Lefty left a lot of margin for himself. So $18. Okay, perfect. So now, basically the way that the sports card market works, whether you're at a card show, whether you're buying online, whatever, or at a card shop, is now that there's an $18 comp for that Gardner Minshew card, the 2019 Prism PSA 10. Now, people aren't going to necessarily want to pay more than that $18, right? That's the premise of everything, really. And so unless you have a selling marker, which we talk a lot about, and the premise of our Wednesday show typically is about having a selling marker. The Minshew selling marker that we talked about for that card would be September. We think based on historical data, it's going to go up. But when you leave a comp, unless you're confident in a selling marker, like we talk about, which is most of the time, there's not a selling marker. Like let's be clear about that. Like there's only a few dozen cards at any given time that we feel confident enough to be like, this has a selling marker. Okay. So why you should try not to leave a footprint and not be a comp is that there are other ways of increasing your card's value to where you don't have to be in a situation where you're dependent upon the value of that exact card in its form that you bought it in going up. So, Lefty, before I sort of steal the thunder of this discussion potentially, I know that you've got a lot of great thoughts along these lines too. What's the first thing you think of when you think about trying not to leave a footprint from a strategy standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what we're trying to do. Very early on in this episode, I talked about potentially selling the SGA offline. Because if you can sell offline, you're helping with a lot of your taxes, you're helping with a lot of your potential shipping, or because of a lot of your percentage that's going to eBay. eBay is a necessary evil in a lot of what we do here. And I don't even necessary evil potentially is too strong of a word, but it's sometimes necessary to have the most eyes possible on some of your cards. Now, there are other ways that we can be able to do this. And if you do any sort of offline sale or any sort of in-person sale, there's not going to be a comp on that. Therefore, when you go to resell the card, no one really knows what you bought it for. And so that is where the bread and butter is made in what Krim and Cody and Chase are doing at shows. They're willing to say, okay, last comp 70%. 70% of last comp, and they know they can put it on their table for more than last comp because, for instance, the Paul Skeens thing, when we were at the Dallas card show, Paul Skeens was throwing a no-hitter as we were at the show. And so Cody knew that he could go find one potentially for under comps. And then he knew that he could put it on his table for above comps and then give a reason why it is listed above comps. It's all about a narrative. That's just sales. That's sales in general in any market. If you can create a narrative around your product for more than what potentially somebody else is willing to pay for it, that's where capitalism is at its best, is when people can tell a good story, a compelling story, and have a value of something go up. When you are not a comp on there, like say the comp's at $100, you buy the card for $70, but you didn't actually buy it online, so it couldn't be necessarily trackable. Then you can go and say, yeah, last comp is $100, but this guy also is playing really well. I'll do 110. And they're like, well, I'll do 95. And you're just like, okay. And you still made $20, And so that's just the simple of how it works. Business is, you got to be shrewd. And sometimes there are good moments like this where you can create shrewdness in your portfolio by not being a comp. Now, the hard part is you've got to do it around traditional measures. You can't do it on eBay. You can't do it on slab stock or, whoever else is being collected by some of these applications that we love to use. And so sometimes it's a little bit difficult, and sometimes it's quote unquote potentially shady, but it's also just smart business.
Yeah, I like what you said in terms of like one way to not leave a footprint and not be a comp is to not buy on any of the marketplaces. So transacting on Discord, transacting on over Instagram or X, always using PayPal goods and services and not the friends and family, because the goods and services is going to put you in a position where if you don't get what you thought you were buying, you can get your money back through PayPal goods and services. If you do any other payment method, you're really risking it. So, but yeah, just simply being off of a marketplace, because whether it's eBay or PWCC, or really any other auction related marketplace, even MySlabs, which is not an auction related marketplace, but you've got apps like Market Movers, Card Ladder, Alt, all the different ways that people track the data they're pulling in from primarily those locations. So being off of those locations, and it could be to your point about being at a card show. That's another great way of not leaving a footprint, is to buy in person, buy at a card show, card shop. Absolutely. So I'm gonna take it in the direction, and I love that you took it there because this is perfect. I'm gonna take it in the direction of, what if you do want to buy on eBay but not leave a footprint? One way that I've done this, most of the time I've been successful at it. I'd say more than half the time I'm successful at it from a profitability standpoint, right? Otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But the most obvious way is grading, right? Because when you set out a sports card strategy of grading a card, you're not really leaving a comp, because you're not leaving a footprint that's going to affect you. You're leaving a comp for the raw card, but your sports card strategy is not to sell it again in its current form, right? So you're not really leaving the footprint that would affect your sports card strategy, because I'm going to buy this card and grade it. And so it's, to me, and this is where I think like my perspective on the hobby differs from a lot of people, but to me, like, it's not the same product anymore. Like, it's literally not the same product. Buying a Dylan Cruz paper 2024 Bowman base raw and then grading it, it's a completely different product now. Like, hobbyists would be like, oh, but it's the same card. But yeah, like a business person would be like, no, it's a totally different product. Like, now when you buy an
F-150 and then you buy the Lariat edition, that's two different trucks.
Yeah, or you put a kit on it or something. Yeah. Now you've got a different, so you've made it like, it's the same thing as like you buy a fixer-upper house and you fix it up. Like that's what we're doing here by grading cards, and that's part of the strategy. The other one too that I think might be obvious to people out there, but this is what we talk about at Sports Card School in the lesson of how to add value to your cards, which is in the advanced flipping course, lesson 3, is cracking and regrading. So this is what I've been doing a lot of, which is buying BGS 9.5s, cracking them, submitting them to PSA. It doesn't always have to be a BGS 9.5. The third one that would be very controversial, I think, may or may not be as controversial as selling a card upon a player's death, but cracking and selling raw. I know great. I can say that I don't do this, but like, I don't set out to make this a sports card strategy like I do the other two. I set out to grade or crack and regrade. I don't set out to buy a card graded and then crack it and sell it raw. But I know a lot of great hobbyists, a lot of great people that do that. And I personally don't have a problem with it. Like, I think we're all doing things to make money. And as long as we're not being deceptive or really being an asshole, then I don't really have a problem with it. So I think if you're cracking and selling raw, could be questionable from a moral standpoint. But that's another way to not leave a comp, because again, you're changing the product, right? So, and whether or not it's honest, the third one, it's changing the product in a way that's not like actually altering the card. So I think, though, the reason I wanted to talk to you, Lefty, on today's episode about this is because I don't know that it's a concept that many people think about. I don't know that our audience is actively thinking about, okay, how, like, when I buy on eBay, how does that affect, or even MySlabs or PWCC, how does that affect my ability to make money on this card? I typically have to have some way to change the product in a strategic way that's going to increase its value in order to make a profit. And the only other way to make a profit is to just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that a guy like Gardner Minshew is going to be an NFL MVP candidate, which we don't know. We know
for beyond a shadow of a doubt.
All right. For those of you just tuning in, we're obviously we're saying that a bit facetiously. We say hello to Ben Dowse and Hunter Daniel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for the love in the live chat. But yeah, Lefty, any other thoughts here on the sports card strategy of trying not to leave a footprint here?
I think it's a really smart move. I think it's not something that should be your, well, let me say, how do I want to say this? Sometimes when you're being extremely savvy, this is another aspect to think about. Now, there's going to be times where you're needing to, like, there's a limited amount and stuff like that, where you're going to leave a comp, especially when you know you're going to have 200% profit on something in 3 months or something like that. Sometimes the comp is necessary, but other times it's beneficial for you to do something a little bit different, like Facebook groups, Discords, which would be the online version of a card show, or potentially if you have the opportunity to go to some big card shows, try to buy some cards there. Like if you're living in the Dallas area, go there. If you're living in the Cincinnati area, go there. If you're living in Nashville or Chicago or places where there are regular large shows, you can do this. So it might take you getting up early on a Saturday morning, but my mom made a ton of money garage sailing doing the exact same thing in the 90s. So it's just, you got to hustle hard, dude.
That's right. You got to hustle. You got to grind. Love it. Love the discussion. Would love to know what you guys think of this discussion. So go to youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Leave a comment on this video. We're going to get back to you. All right. I got some questions for Lefty. I'm excited. I'm excited to switch gears here and talk about some specific hobby-related topics here. Let's start with Lefty, one of Lefty's favorite sports, baseball. We've got Topps Chrome 2024 pre-order happening now at Topps.com. Hobby boxes, jumbo hobbies, and if I'm understanding it correctly, even cases. Yep. Lefty, should the people pre-order Topps Chrome 2024 hobby boxes now? What do you think?
So we have almost flag planted on saying that wax is not the investability of what we're trying to do. We try to say, yes, singles, if possible, graded singles, things like that. We've done the raw to grade. We've done the grade to sell later grade. I forget the vernacular used there. But when you are able to get a part of this pre-order thing, there are some times where this can become a profitable experience for you. We did this with 2022 draft. We did this with some hobbies, with other stuff. We have done this before, and here is the potential strategy of what I want to talk about with this specific release. So you asked me this question earlier, and I did some digging, and I have found out that yes, you can potentially buy these off of Topps website, but there's already listings of this on eBay as well. And so if you look at the eBay link that we have here, is that this card is already listed for pre-sale at $365 from a seller on eBay. Now, I'm not telling you to go buy this when you could clearly just go to the website itself, but there are other people listing this already for $365 on eBay. $365.99, you can buy up to 10. They clearly have already secured their spots from this pre-listing, or maybe they have an allocation number or something like that, that this is happening. If this is where the market settles on this specific release, we're just going to use this for the mental math of it. And then you ended up buying it for, what is it? What was the
$189.99 on Topps.com right now for the pre-order.
Okay, so assuming after taxes, you're going to be around 200. You are just for the mental math doing 200. 365 at 13.25% on eBay gets you down to $316, which isn't a bad play. And if you add taxes and shipping to that, it should be somewhere around 300, making around $100 profit from the $200 to a $300 range. So if these numbers are accurate, which it's hard, this is the only necessary comp we have right now. But if this is where this is going to sell, making $100 on every box you buy, that's not bad. I can clearly say I would do that. That's if you're buying in at around 200 and selling for $100 profit, go ahead and tell the people what percentage that is, Paul.
Say that one more time. I was thinking about the next thing I was going to say.
If you're buying it for around 200, so let's just use 200, and you're selling it for 365 at 13.5 or 13.25%, 316, let's just say 300. What's $200 to $300? What's the percentage gain on that?
That's going to be about it's over 30%.
I believe it's 50%.
If you're taking 100 profit into the 200 investment, then yeah, you'd be right. You'd be right at 50%, my man.
So this
good
one
math.
box is 50% gain on a what, potentially 2-week flip.
And if you were to buy, say 3 of these,
yeah,
right, you could pay for one of them with selling 2 and then rip the third one if you really wanted to get, crafty with it. I agree. I like the way you broke this down. I took a question that I thought you would maybe answer with what singles are inside. And you said, no, my friend, we're not ripping wax as a sports card strategy. We might flip the wax as a sports card strategy. So I love it. I love where we
some fun singles in this release. I will tell you that. There are some dual autos that are crazy. They have dual sports in here. Wembanyama, I believe, has an autograph in this set. Like, there's some crazy stuff that's ending up in these Series 2 and Topps Chrome different variations. There's some cool stuff, but I'm always about making money. I don't like ripping cards anymore. I like, seeing my Cash App dollar amount go up.
I am with you, my friend. And I love it. Love the breakdown. Very good takeaways there for people related to one of the more popular upcoming releases in the sports card world, for sure. Topps Chrome Baseball 2024. So another way to buy sports cards that we've talked a lot about on the Sports Card Strategy Show is print on demand cards. So there's Topps Now and there's Panini Instant. Those are the two main print on demand brands. And I've been we're going to break these down very well over the next probably 5 to 10 minutes of the show. So I've been very outspoken about Topps Now releases because, Lefty, when you and I see an opportunity for Topps Now, we go all in. But I think I want to make sure we don't mislead our audience, because just like everything else we do, there are guidelines to the strategy. And then when you come up with a good strategy, you can repeat that as plays. And I think the guidelines for a good Topps Now strategy, I think it has to be a player that the market has a strong demand for. I think it has to be a unique enough individual card of that player where it fits into that player's ecosystem of cards well. And I'll use a specific example coming up with the card that you and I are about to talk about, what I mean by that. And then the other thing about the Topps Now is that I like about Topps Now, when you can meet those two requirements, when it's a player that has high market demand, like it's proven that other cards of that player are in demand, and when it's a unique enough card for that player, like there's some kind of designation on the Topps Now card that makes it unique. That will be an example of how it could fit into their ecosystem. And we'll talk about the specific example in a second. But the third and fourth thing I like about Topps Now, when you can meet 1 and 2, Topps Now has a very, very high gem rate. Firsthand for you and firsthand for me. Like, we know firsthand, we've made a lot of Topps Now plays. I personally get like a 90% gem rate on my Topps Now plays. This is Topps Now. This is not Panini Instant. I'm just clarifying. The second thing about Topps Now that I like more than Panini Instant is you have an opportunity to get low serial numbered parallels randomly inserted into your order. So there is a chance of a hit that could make your Topps Now play even more valuable. So the Topps Now potential play that I want to talk about based on these guidelines, a play that I think might fit these guidelines, and I want to get your take on it, is Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal, we're going to your next favorite sport. We're going from baseball to soccer. Lamine Yamal is a 16-year-old Spanish national. He plays for FC Barcelona. 16 years old. He's already played very well for FC Barcelona, and he just made his national debut the other day in the Euro. And he has his Tops Now national debut. When I was alluding to a second ago, something that is unique about the card to make it fit into a player's ecosystem of cards. This is what I was talking about. It says national debut on it. European Championship record, youngest player in Euro tournament history. He's in his national kit, obviously, because it's his national debut. So what would be unique about this card, an example that I was talking about earlier, is it's his first card for Topps with this national debut designation. It's his first card in a national kit for Topps. And you have a chance of a very high gem rate and a chance of a low serial number parallel. Lamine Yamal, for those of you who've been paying attention to our Friday soccer card market updates right here on the feed, the Sports Card Strategy Show feed, we do a soccer card market update every Friday. He has been the hottest name in the soccer card market for at least the last 3 weeks. So what I like about this potential play here is that you get a fixed cost card. So you could buy 20 of these cards at $4.50 a card. It's going to go up about $5.50 a card because of tax and shipping. So it'd be about just over $5 a card. You're not in an auction driving up the price of these cards. His base cards are going for far above $5 a card right now. And they don't have as high of a gem rate of a Topps Now, and you get the opportunity for a low serial numbered card. So while most of the people out there may have no idea who Lamine Yamal is, I think this is a great opportunity to bring him into the fold of the Sports Card Strategy Show with this Topps Now opportunity. Lefty, what do you think about all this?
Well, I can already say I've gone out and I've done this already. I've already done this. And this is on the heels of me saying Yamal was not a guy that I'm buying into. I will say that Yamal is not a guy that I've been buying into. And I've said that publicly. I've said that privately to Paul in our text messages. I've said I'm not interested right now because he's 16 years old. Barcelona is not in the place that I want them to be right now. So even if he is a young player, I just have like overtones of Ansu Fati and overtones of Pedri and we've seen this happen in the wake of the Messi has moved on wave. But this card is different. And here's why. The national debut, I think, holds a ton of weight. This is not reliance on his Barcelona play. This specific card is not. I have only broken even on this play one time, and I've done this multiple times. And I commonly will buy the 20 card set and immediately send them to PSA. Like I literally don't even open the package. And if I get a numbered parallel in there, great. I'm going to see it when it gets to PSA. This is why the gem rate is so high, even if they are dipping down to like the $40 range, which everybody's like, $40 Yamal slab. Like that's not even that big of a deal. If you're paying $5 for the card, you're paying $15 to $18 for the grading fee, depending on what PSA level you're at or what PSA special at the time is coming out. $40 is great profit margin per card. I'm still taking that to the.
You're still making almost $10 a card at that point.
Yeah, that's good margin no matter what. If you're making $10 on $20, or if you're making $10 on $25, that's almost 50%.
Yeah, ask any other e-commerce shop owner of any other product in the world not related to sports cards, and they're going to be like, why wouldn't you be getting hundreds of these?
Order hundreds of those,
yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, okay, I don't want to have 100 of them that I'm sitting on. I would rather have 20, but I've done this several times. And I would say that I don't have the official numbers, but I would say off the top of my head, I can only think of 1.9 I've ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my gem rate's higher than 90% on this specific play, the Topps Now play. I've done it with Bronny James. I've done it with We've done it with Shohei. We've done it with there's just a lot of them.
Wembanyama,
Messi. Like
that was one of our biggest ones.
We've done
Wembanyama.
this a lot of times. So I've made money on this every single time we've done it.
Yep.
So,
so I love the tops now. I'm so happy to hear what you said about this, and I think we've done a great job clarifying it for our audience. But everybody out there, let us know if you have any questions. Everyone has until June 23rd at 9 a.m. Central Time to buy these cards. And what I like about it too is that they're going to randomly insert these parallels. We've already talked about the fact that happens, but there's a 1 of 1, there's out of 5 red, there's out of 10, out of 25 purple, out of 49 blue. And I'm going to do what Lefty's saying. I wouldn't even open them. I'll just send them into PSA as is. And as soon as I get them, send them in. And I think it's money. So I'm excited about it. Now, Lefty.
PSA hates us for that, by the way.
Yeah. But we have to put a little note in there that says, I give you my permission to open these cards.
I'm sure they're like, why are they not in card savers?
Yeah, whatever. Like you said, all we care about is making money. So keeping it moving. Keeping it moving to one of your other favorite sports. Where would we be in a conversation with Lefty McKee if we didn't talk about women's basketball? So let's get into it real quick. I want to bring something up because it's been nothing but Caitlin Clark love fest in the hobby. And look, I'm the first fan of the WNBA. I have 2 WNBA championship rings. He-Man, humble brag, in my sock drawer.
Dude, can we pause and you go get them?
I'll bring them to one of the next shows. But because if we pause, then I'm going to go pee and it's going to be a whole thing. So we don't need that. We have to keep going. Sorry, everybody. So I'll be the first to say, like, look, I support the WNBA. I support all the players. I will not argue with the fact that Caitlin Clark has done amazing things for women's basketball. And I like that trend should hopefully continue. What I do want to say though, and I actually have kind of seen this coming. I've alluded to it on earlier episodes of the Sports Card Strategy Show, where I just have felt like we all should have sold Caitlin Clark a long time ago. I think you even agreed with me on that, where it was like,
I did. I sold everything.
We sold, get out of Caitlin Clark. And so I think we're on the same page up until now. And I'm just curious as to your take on what I'm about to say. So I think that there is now a complete oversaturation of Caitlin Clark cards. I think that I'm ringing the warning bell and I'm saying, danger, everyone. Don't continue to buy into Caitlin Clark cards necessarily. And I'm going to bring up a couple of reasons exactly why I'm concerned, because a couple of months ago on the Sports Card Strategy Show, I said I was buying her draft night instant, Panini instant rookie cards. I think you bought them too. And I said the play was to just get them. Don't do exactly what we were talking about with Yamal. Just send them to PSA. Don't even open them. Send them to PSA. No parallels in the Panini instant, though. You're just getting the base. What I liked about the play is a lot of the things we talked about with Yamal, where it's like low cost per acquisition because it's like ends up being just a few dollars a card. Add to it the grading fee. You should make money, all that stuff. Let's never mind the fact that I ordered those cards on April 30th and here it is at the end of June, and I still have no idea when I'm going to get them from Panini. But they did what they also did with Wemby, was they made a ridiculous amount of Caitlin Clark instants after the initial one. So now we have a watered down Caitlin Clark market, and now we're seeing things that I've never seen with Panini instant cards before. Kendall, there is a Caitlin Clark Jaguar out of 10 auto. There are still some available. This was not happening This was not happening a couple months ago. Like, you couldn't, if you tried to go get a Caitlin Clark auto in a sort of print on demand format like this, they were sold out in like seconds. Now you can go get a Caitlin Clark rookie auto from Panini. Like, this is unheard of. So, and there's only 10 of them. You mean to tell me that there's not more than 10 people that want this card? Kendall, I think we're in trouble here with the Caitlin Clark market a little bit. I mean, you've got White Tiger out of 5 for, now granted the auto's $1,200, but you've got White Tiger out of 5 for $500. You've got Jaguar out of 10 non-auto for $350. These all would have been sold out a couple of months ago. So I think we're in trouble here. And as you go through, you've got Jungle out of 25. These are rookie cards. These are low serial numbered rookie cards, $220. Then as you go through the Angel Reese market, you see the same thing with Angel Reese. So I think, like, I love the WNBA love, but I don't know that there's enough demand in the overall women's basketball card market to sustain any kind of price increases for these players. And like, if Caitlin Clark and Victor Wembanyama are in the same sentence, you mean to tell me that there would be a Victor Wembanyama auto out of 10 still remaining on PaniniAmerica.net? Lefty, what do you think about all this?
I'm definitely worried about the high-end market for Caitlin Clark for sure, just because she's not done what people thought that she was going to do when she came into the WNBA. She has. I literally watched her in person the other night. I went to a Fever game. I sent you pictures of it, and then I saw how her coach was misusing her talent. I'll say it on record. I was like, I feel like I could have coached this better. You know, they almost lost to the Atlanta Dream because they were using her like she's some super, super slow point guard who cannot shoot. Like, this girl is actually could be one of the best WNBA players in a couple of years. Not now. I'm not saying she's that right now, but I'm saying she could be. And they're completely misusing her offensively, I believe. But that's a different conversation. What I will say about this, for this specific Topps Now card or a Panini instant that we bought, there are pre-sales as recent as today, Paul. Sold June 19th, 2024, Panini Instant WNBA Draft Night, pick Caitlin Clark Fever card pre-sale that just now sold for $39.99. So I paid $5 for this card. I'm going to get it graded, and the raw version of it is selling for $40. Like, I think the graded version of this card is going to sell for much more than $40. I'll just put it that way. So I'm still happy with the purchase that we did make when this card does, when this card does come in. Now, am I willing to go buy more of these? Am I itching to say, great, fine, Paul, I've got to go buy this out of 10 autograph? Not at all. But I'm very excited about the opportunity that we're going to have for this draft night Caitlin Clark Fever card. That is essentially the same card that we made a ton of money on with Wembanyama. And I believe I'm going to make a good chunk of cash on this card as well. And I am excited that it's already selling for $40 or still selling for $40 when nobody has them yet.
Like, yeah, that's great news. That's great news. I'm excited too. So maybe I don't even want to get them graded. I mean, if they're selling raw for $40, maybe I actually do open them, right? And like, I think you did that with some of your Wembies. You actually opened them, the Panini Instant. Let's clarify, because the Topps Now, high gem rate, Panini Instant, putrid gem rate. So I think what you did with some of your Wembies was you sold them raw because you didn't think they were going to gem. I might want to do that with these Clarks, but that's great news. Lefty bringing it strong and coming for Christy Sides. Indiana Fever head coach, watch out. Lefty McKee wants your job.
Hey, I formerly coached in college athletics. That's all I'll say.
Love it. We say hello to Mosaic Joe. We say aloha to Jeremy Godoy in the live chat. Everybody, great show today. Lefty, do you have anything you want to add before we hit him with the outro, man?
Sign me up for the WNBA head coaching position. That's all I got to say. Cue the rock music, baby!
Let's go! Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. To connect with us further, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Please also give us a follow on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy and on X at No Off Season Card. We also have a Discord that you could join at sportscardstrategy.com. Everyone, I'm Paul Hickey. For the rest of us here at nooffseason.com, have a great day. We'll see you again soon.